We're back again for the last time in Baltimore at the ASEE annual meeting. As our time together comes to a close, we'll be looking to the future to find out what the year ahead will look like for ASEE and its members. I'm Melissa Kim here again for this year's final episode of ASEE TV. Today's episode is all about what comes next after everyone heads back home from this meeting to put what they've learned into practice. We'll talk to Christina Alston and Megan Pollock from ASEE's DEI committee about their efforts to create an inclusive space for all in engineering education. Carl Reed and Eric Jones will share how we can work to advance anti-racism in engineering. Plus, Don Visco and Sarah Wilson will tell us what to expect this year from the Chemical Engineering Education Journal. Then, of course, we'll continue our visits to institutions at the forefront of engineering education, from North Carolina to Minnesota, all the way to Beijing. But first, let's see what ASEE CEO Jacqueline El-Sayed expects this coming year for the society. We're joined now by ASEE CEO Jacqueline El-Sayed. Thanks so much for taking the time in your busy schedule to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, important question, what are your top priorities for the year ahead?
My top goals are to continue to stabilize our headquarters and organizations and really build a culture of collaboration. Also, I want to continue to build our opportunities for engagement of our members and the engineering education community at large, beyond just our conferences, but really throughout the entire year. And I plan to launch a listening tour in order to be able, as a new CEO, really to be able to really, even though I've been a member for years, really be able to understand what is the most relevant to our members and what are their needs, and be able to then design opportunities for them.
And, you know, the nation, the country, we're facing a shortage of engineers. What is ASEE doing to build up numbers, build up enrollment?
So there's enrollment, there's retention, and there's completion. So for example, in enrollment, we have members who are in the P12 educational space who are really working in collaboration with colleges. I chair actually the Engineering Society Education Roundtable, and we work on letting students know how they can get involved in engineering education and how there's a place for them, and really make them demystify engineering. And we also work with the educators in higher ed to make sure that they have the best practices for retaining students, and then also with industry, so then we can have a seamless transition from education into their jobs.
Obviously, technology engineering is changing constantly all the time in the world that we live in. What is ASEE doing to help educators and students adapt to that?
So if you think about the past, the ever-changing world of technology and industry, we really have to be able to listen to our industry partners. So we convened the Corporate Members Council, which has a plethora of individuals from industry who can provide that, you know, what is actually happening in industry that then communicates with our Engineering Deans Council, which is the super majority of our engineering deans who really work on the infrastructure. And the vast majority of our members are educators in the field. And so then they work on best practices, both curricular and co-curricular, to be able to integrate technology into their education, but also do it in a way that students are also changing, right? How they can best learn.
So one of the things that we've heard a lot from people attending the conference is the relationships. That's the best thing. You get to see people that you haven't seen in a while. So how do you continue to build that community amongst students, educators? You have a lot of people coming to these things.
Yeah, so we have many different conferences throughout the year. We also have intentional communities of practice that we build and convene both virtually and in person, so that people can network and learn from each other. We have our publications where, and also our data resources, which really help with providing data-driven and research-based practices. And then we're really involved also in thought leadership in order to really look at, in the future, what should engineering education look like, so that all of us can work together to integrate it into our curricula and our experiential learning and our co-curricula in a way that today's students can really learn the best way.
Perfect. Jacqueline El-Sayed, CEO of ASEE, thanks so much for taking the time to join us in your busy schedule today.
Thanks so much.
Next up, East Carolina University boasts unique holistic support to foster student success in the classroom and beyond. We'll see how they're looking to transform North Carolina's economy with their engineering workforce in training.
The East Carolina University College of Engineering and Technology offers a unique environment because everything we do is focused on student success. We're a student-centered college, and we aim to offer a relationship-rich education to every student who comes to us. We have a student success center that focuses on relationship building environments like our first-year program, like our digital lounge, and opportunities for students to get engaged both academically and in everything that we offer beyond the classroom. Our student-centered mission focused on student success is clearly connected to our mission to lead regional transformation. Employers in Eastern North Carolina and really across the state of North Carolina, their greatest need is workforce. That's how we're going to transform our region through our focus on student success and student engagement in that educational pathway.
Through experiential learning and an engaging faculty, the Swenson College of Science and Engineering inspires the next generation of STEM professionals to solve complex problems. Let's take a closer look.
So we are a mid-sized university, and that allows us to have hands-on, one-on-one interaction with our students and our faculty. So about 40% of our students are doing research or design or discovery by the time that they graduate. And I think that that is one of the signatures of our programming here at UMD.
SCSE is the Swenson College of Science and Engineering here at the University of Minnesota Duluth. We have a very diverse set of faculty that get our students involved in teaching and research here at the university. Not only diverse in the backgrounds that we come from, but also in the types of research and teaching that we get our students involved in.
That's really our mission, is to inspire the next generation of STEM professionals to solve complex problems, and I think we do it well, and I'm really excited about the programming that we have coming that'll allow us to really live that from day one in a student's career.
We're joined now by Christina Austin and Megan Pollock on the DEI Commission here at ASEE. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
How has diversity, equity, and inclusion really changed the landscape of higher education? Christina, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So DEI has really had a profound impact on the fabric of a lot of our campuses in higher ed. It's really made a very rich learning environment where we're able to really value the different lived experiences of diverse individuals and understanding their different ways of knowing. And we're really allowed to bring that into how we see engineering, how we see social problems and socialized ways of addressing those problems without teaching people how to address different solutions from a DEI focus. We wouldn't be having these very innovative ways of addressing these issues that we have across the world.
When we create environments where people feel valued, included, affirmed, they're able to show up as their authentic selves. They experience the kinds of environment that reduces the cognitive overload that they're having to sort of pretend to be something else, right? We talked about this of needing to feel like they were having to assimilate. And really that's what our commission is focused on.
That's lovely. That leads in nicely to my next question. What strategies are universities implementing to really promote and make sure that diversity and inclusion is a priority?
The most effective tools are creating systemic changes that help teachers, that help the institutions, that help people really address the underlying ideologies that led to exclusion, that have led to the marginalization. How are those ideologies institutionalized in the system that reinforce those systems of oppression? And then how do they affect students? How are those things internalized? And then what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, and from my perspective, really thinking about the students who are there and making sure that they're able to persist. And like Megan said, that system approach is really important. But what's even more important is making sure that we're not looking at that from a deficit lens. So what are really the needs of the faculty to support them? So what assets do the students already have to keep them there? What are their strengths? What are their goals? How can we support each other, right? So really having that strength-based approach to maintaining the needs of the students within those spaces. Let's look at the faculty. How are you mentoring those students? Do you actually know where your students are coming from? Why did they join your program? Is it just so that they could say that they were an environmental engineer? Or do they have a particular background within their environment or their community that they're trying to overcome?
When we help people learn how to do this, first, we teach them about systems. We teach them about positionality, which means understanding who you are in that system. How does your lived experience influence your lived experience? How are you, your lens, how you're interpreting your students' experiences, because that affects how you see them as a deficit or what they're bringing as an asset.
You guys kind of touched on this a little bit. From an educator perspective, how do they make sure that their methods are promoting diversity and inclusion?
Think about DEI, right? You might just think about that when you're in academia or when you're writing papers, or let's do that for them, right? Think about who you invite into your home. Think about who your best friends are. Is it truly a monoculture that you're living within? When you're truly having diverse experiences yourself, and you're truly trying to have an understanding of diverse cultures, then you're truly going to be educating other people, or willing to understand other people's lived experiences and learn and educate through those lived experiences.
For example, some of the core values I believe around diversity, equity, and inclusion are like transparency. How are we making sure that we're not, creating unintentional gatekeeping by hiding knowledge? How are we checking in and understanding the way that people experience the space? The way you do that is ask them. Ask them, how do you feel? If you don't feel good, let's talk about that. What about the environment is causing that? It's recognizing how do we need to move through the world in a way that creates space and opportunity for everyone. And that might mean for me as a white person that I need to step aside
and
sometimes.
be uncomfortable. Yeah, and that small uncomfortability is allowing for others to become comfortable within that space. Because you don't know that you asking that one question is allowing someone else not to be uncomfortable, because they're sitting there trying to conform to this normative of what they believe they have to be in order to be within your space. We're getting rid of that idea of who you have to be in order to succeed by allowing them to share their voice.
All of this work is a practice. It's a constant series of self-awareness and thinking and asking and questioning who's being served, who's not being served by whatever kinds of things that we're doing and participating in.
Exactly.
Some really, really good points. Very eloquently put. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
The UNESCO International Center for Engineering Education at Tsinghua University is committed to building an equal, inclusive, and innovative engineering education community. Let's see how they're promoting quality and equity in engineering education around the world.
联合国教科文组织国际工程教育中心 ASEE 是中国工程院和清华大学共同申请和建设的以工程教育为主题的联合国教科文组织的2类机构。
今天，全球工程教育界、学术界和产业界的朋友们相聚云端，共同见证第3届国际工程教育论坛开幕。
我希望全世界的工程科技界同行能够携起手来，共同推动工程教育在世界范围的全面均衡发展。
All right, we're joined now by Don Visco and Sarah Wilson from the Chemical Engineering Education Division. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
Good morning.
And Don, I want to start with you. What are some of the most exciting topics that you guys are covering right now?
Over the last about 18 months, we've had 2 special issues. One of the special issues was on teaching data science in chemical engineering, and that came from an AICHE conference session. And the other area was in the sort of chemical engineering education community's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And Sarah, for you, what's some of the inspiration for your work? You can talk a little bit about what Don talked about as well, but some of the inspiration for your work.
Yeah, so the paper that I recently published was focused on student mental health.
and really providing guidance for faculty on how they can better support students who might be struggling with their mental health. And that really came about from just my own experiences in the classroom. So having students who were struggling and really feeling like I was unprepared to be able to support them. So that has really driven a lot of the research that I do on engineering student mental health and helped me to really develop my research area and help to share what I've learned with other faculty so that hopefully they can be more prepared to be able to support our students.
And Don, for you, in terms of anybody that would want to be published, what's some of the criteria that you use to assess on whether that is possible or not?
Yeah, so really the most important thing is whether the work fits in the scope of the journal. And so it really has to be of interest to the chemical engineering education community. One of the other most important things is it has to be sort of contextualized within what's known within the education literature, whether it's the broad field of education in engineering or within chemical engineering education. And so the works have to be sort of an advancement on what's already known. And ultimately, though, it's the reviewers that sort of provide the feedback on the articles, and the information that they provide is so important for the process, and they provide a lot of help for us in determining whether it goes back to the authors for modification or whether it moves forward in the process.
And this question is for both of you, but Sarah, I want to start with you. Why are journals so important to the future of engineering education?
There are so many amazing faculty that are doing incredible research across the field of engineering education. So having that opportunity to be able to share that with others and be able to have each of us build off of what other people are doing and not reinvent the wheel in terms of the research we're doing in engineering ed. And I also think it helps to drive some level of rigor in the research that we're doing and hold everyone to a standard to make sure that we're really doing the best work that we can do.
You know, the sort of peer-reviewed work that occurs within journals like Chemical Engineering Education is crucial because it gets the sort of feedback from the peers within the community and beyond. And then once it sort of passes through the process and gets accepted and is published, it goes out to the rest of the world. We have subscriptions from 30 different countries. Journals like CEE and other ASEE journals really provide the opportunity for educators to see what's been done in the field.
Awesome. Don Visco, Sarah Wilson, thank you guys so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The question might well be asked, why diversity? Why should we care about diversity in engineering education? I believe without diversity, we limit the set of life experiences we apply to solve a problem. Also, while everyone may be talented, opportunities to learn, grow, and develop may not be available for everyone.
ChatGPT is definitely a transformative technology. It already is, and its impact is only going to continue to grow.
Yet we face challenges such as cheating, intellectual property rights, ethical dilemmas, and ensuring everyone reaps the benefits of this AI revolution. This is how we can responsibly incorporate AI into education while upholding academic integrity and providing equitable access for all students.
Engineering culture has been overemphasizing on students' performance in the engineering classes. However, as engineering educators, we need to find a way to encourage students to develop professional skills as well. So how do we push for a cultural change that encourages students to engage in all kinds of engineering activities outside and inside the classrooms?
Think about what engineering students are excited about and why they became engineers in the first place. Additionally, there needs to be a greater emphasis on learning that includes failures and challenges. Think about ways to incorporate failure in their classes without impacting students' belief in their own abilities.
There seems to be a common trend in engineering where students are changing their major to something less difficult or something less demanding. It would be foolish to assume that they're switching their major just because they're less intelligent than other students. I believe it's because of their curriculum. The curriculum has a lot of material that's kind of unnecessary for career-wise engineering.
Come to think of this, if I am not emotionally and psychologically stable, how will I give my best to the research activities? So beyond the research assignments given to us, which we have to do in terms of our assistantship, the community should rally around us, especially international students, so that we can feel like we are still in our home, even though we are away from home. Getting that kind of support will make us feel grounded in doing the needed task.
What are best practices that can be more widely adopted and scaled to be supportive of students' learning experiences while aligning with trauma-informed teaching that models empathy, inclusion, and multicultural awareness to students?
Engineers are integral to every society's technological development and civilization. Proper education of engineers require well-designed curriculum that is going to equip them with the skills and the knowledge for successful career. Nevertheless, change, they say, is the only constant thing. As we transition from one technological era to another, engineering educators must constantly review the curriculum. And while they are doing that, they must answer an important question, which is, how prepared will the future engineers be for these changing times? Thank you.
We're joined now by Carl Reed and Eric Jones. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, first of all, some really important topics to talk about. What do institutions in engineering miss out by not prioritizing anti-racism?
Engineering thrives on innovation, on problem solving, but it also thrives on its diversity. So if we don't have everybody at the table, we're not solving the world's most complex problems, and we're not doing it well. And so engineering is hurt by not putting efforts into not just being non-racist, but to dismantling racist structures that have created these barriers for various groups.
The ability to actually communicate that message that not only does diversity is something that's important, it's something that actually we need to move the country forward. Right now, we need 55,000 engineers as we look at reshoring, like companies such as Intel and AMD. So at some point, we have to think about the strength that diversity brings and also how it actually builds our country.
And you guys both touched on this just a little bit, but how can engineering classrooms make sure and educators make sure that their classrooms are anti-racist? Eric, starting with you.
Oh, wow. That's the question of the decade. When you think about the classroom in engineering, the question is, as we're trying to teach those complex activities, what are the faculty, what are the historical underpinnings that have created that environment? Part of it is understanding the context of engineering, but also that how can we, at some level, make it more inclusive? So I think that, engineering has a unique place in that it's so complex. We could talk about the problems it solves for communities of color, and that makes it inclusive. And at some level, I think it's more of how to talk about it in such a way that communities care, as opposed to finding the reasons why there may be scenarios in which people can't succeed.
What Eric talked about reminds me of Darryl Pines in his keynote, early part of this conference, when he talked about the empathetic engineer, that human beings have to be at the center of engineering. Starting with that from a curricular standpoint, creating solutions and training future engineers to be human-centric is key.
And lastly, this is kind of a big question, but how would engineering and, the world, society as a whole, look if anti-racism was a core value of what we do every day?
When we have diverse engineers, it defines the problems we pursue. So it expands the kind of problem. My wife is a physician, a liver specialist, and she's looking at healthcare disparities. She wouldn't be doing that, or other people wouldn't be doing that if she didn't have the lived experience she does.
I think the engineering community is a whole bunch of introverts. And a lot of times we bring our biases, whether it's international biases or domestic biases. I think that mentorship, communication, and also to the fact that, there's a return on investment for this diversity. And it's not just, I'm doing someone a favor. It's like, if we don't do this, we won't have the world that we need to live in the future.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
That's all for ASEE TV at this year's meeting. We hope you're leaving this meeting feeling energized and excited about everything you saw and learned about here, with great connections to other engineers and educators. If you want to revisit all the very best from this year's meeting, you can keep watching ASEE TV on screens around the Convention Center, on the ASEE website, in your hotel room on Channel 90 at the Sheraton, and finally on YouTube and Twitter. Next year, we hope to see you all in Portland for another great ASEE meeting with another inside look from ASEE TV. I'm Melissa Kim, signing off.